Hello, everyone. Welcome into another episode of Ben on Sports. This time we have our week 4 NFL predictions. And as always, we're going to review a little bit of week 3 before getting into week 4. Hopefully, we'll get this video a little bit shorter. I don't know anybody wants to sit down and listen to an hour. So we'll try with a little bit shorter episodes. Hopefully, sometimes I ramble. I hope everybody's been enjoying the series so far. Again, this is going to be episode 4 of 18 for the 18 weeks of the NFL season. As always, please like, comment, and subscribe and keep coming back for more content. I think we're going to be doing some MLB stuff here soon with the start of the playoffs coming up. And maybe some other fun stuff. Who knows? Anyways, without further ado, let's get into the video. So here we go. Game 1 of week 3, we had the Jets and the Patriots. Maybe a little bit further than I was expecting, but I think the Jets are going to keep finding their rhythm on offense. Patriots probably not very good. I think they're going to be able to play some teams close just by playing good defense and controlling the ball, but Jets did what they had to do. They got a win. They moved to 2-1. Not a whole lot to say about this game. I think both teams are exactly what we expected coming in. Who did I pick in this? I did pick the Jets, so we moved to 1-0 after Thursday Night Football. Here we go, moving into Sunday's afternoon slate, and we had the Steelers and the Chargers. Chargers jumped out to an early lead, but eventually the Steelers defense kept it close, and eventually the offense found some points. Herbert gets hurt in this one. The Chargers actually played pretty well. I'm surprised because they let the Steelers hit 20 points. It's hard for the Steelers to get there. The Steelers defense is really, really good, but they're still undefeated, hit 3-0, so I can't bash them too much. I'm still worried about the offense. They might have the best defense in the NFL. They're absolutely crushing it on the defensive end. And the Chargers, they started 2-0. I think they might be close to a 500 team. I thought maybe they get 4 or 5 wins this year. They might be closer to 500. I mean, Harbaugh's a great coach. At least it appears that way. They're going to run the ball well. They're going to play some defense, and they're going to take the load off of Herbert's shoulders. And I think the Chargers will be okay this year. They're not supposed to compete this year, and if they do, I mean, nobody ever gets mad when you're ahead of schedule. But yes, Steelers moved to 3-0, and just as everybody expected, are 2 games up on everybody else in the division, 3 games up on the Bengals, just like everybody expected. Chargers move into a big week game with the Chiefs this week. But anyway, that's week 4. We're on week 3. Who did I pick? I picked the Steelers, which means we move to 2-0 on the week. And here we go, moving into the next game. In this game, another shocker. Maybe we need to start believing the Vikings. Listen, I didn't think they were that good. I keep waiting for Sam Darnold to return to the Sam Darnold we know from teams like the Jets and the Panthers. But maybe it's not a Sam Darnold issue, and it's a Jets and Panthers issue, as they've been 2 of the worst organizations over the last couple of years, last decade or so. I guess the Panthers did make a Super Bowl in 2015, but outside of that, what else have they really done? Anyway, the Vikings keep on impressing. I mean, the Texans seem to be a good team. At least everybody expects it. They probably are going to win their division this year. And the Vikings manhandled them all game. It was all Minnesota. Defense is playing great. Brian Flores, maybe he's trying to audition for some head coaching jobs next year, trying to rebuild his image after all the Tua controversy. But wow, do the Vikings look really, really good. They moved to 3-0. I feel like I have to respect them, but I still don't know if I'm 100% sold. But this win, and coupled with last week's win, are supposed to be 2 good teams in the Texans and the 49ers, and they beat them both. And the Vikings are really shocking people. They seem to be a complete team. We'll see if they can keep it up. And the Texans, for the Texans do what they want to do this year, they can't lose to anybody by 27 points to fulfill and reach the goals that they think they're capable of doing this year. So not a great game from the Texans, but everybody has 1 or 2 clunkers throughout the season. Again, who did I pick? I think like mostly everybody else, I picked the Texans. I think I've picked against the Vikings every single week. I know I have the last 2 weeks. Maybe I need to stop picking against them. Brings me to 2-1. Saints and Eagles, it was kind of an ugly game. It was a defensive game. It was a close game. The Saints offense came crashing down back to earth. Part of it was the Eagles defense. I think part of it was also just natural regression. That is a real thing that happens. You can't average over 40 a game It's not something that happens in the NFL. But to come crashing back down to 12, especially at home, probably sucks for the Saint fans. The Eagles looked good. The Eagles, a lot of close games early on. First three, I think, games have all been one possession. But you can play close games as long as you're winning them, and the Eagles have won them both. And just as everybody predicted coming into the year, my favorite phrase, they are tied on top of the division, just not with the Cowboys. They're tied with the Commanders. More on them later. Who did I pick? I did pick the Saints. I started drinking the Saints Kool-Aid again after I said I needed to not do it anymore after drinking it the last 3 years and being proven wrong. I keep drinking it. I held it off for 2 weeks this time. Oh, well. Eagles won the game, and I moved to 2-1. Moving on, we had the Bucks and the Broncos. Another upset. This is going to become a theme this week. This might be upset week part 2 after last week. And maybe it's not upsets. Maybe these teams are actually good now. Maybe there's just a lot of parity. I think parity is a question a lot of people are asking because there hadn't been a whole lot of teams to look overly dominant. But the Broncos beat a Buccaneers team coming off of a great week beating Detroit in Detroit. And they beat them pretty handedly on the road. Props to the Broncos rookie quarterback. Sean Payton, maybe he has a little bit less in the tank. The Buccaneers, I don't think there's really an excuse for this loss. You just can't have that happen. Not a good look, but the Buccaneers are in what appears to be a semi-forgiving division. I mean, more on that division later. The Saints, maybe their competition. I mean, the Falcons could be good. Maybe it's not a forgiving division other than the Panthers, but you can't have that happen if you're the Buccaneers. I think it's kind of inexcusable to allow 26 points to a team that has looked dead offensively all season. Who did I pick? Like I said, I think just like a lot of people, I picked the Bucks, and the Broncos won the game. That puts me at 2-3 on the week. I'm on a 3-game losing streak. Let's finish off the 1:00 slate. Tennessee and Green Bay in Tennessee. Tennessee early running for worst team in the NFL. They look absolutely horrific right now. Green Bay went in there with Malik Willis and won by 16. It was a little bit close. Tennessee played it close and were scrappy at the beginning, and I think eventually the talent went out for Green Bay. And Green Bay's got to like where they're at. They're 2-1 with a close loss to the Eagles, even though they don't have Jordan Love. Maybe he comes back this week, but they have a big game coming up we're going to be talking about a little bit later in the video. But they're 2-1 when Jordan Love has missed the last 2 games and they've won them both. I think he's getting close to coming back. He might be coming back this week. We will see. Again, Titans not very good. 30-14 win. Who did I pick? I did pick the Packers. I didn't caveat it this week. I just full out picked them. Moving on to the next game, Browns and Giants. And this game surprised me. I think this is honestly my biggest surprise of the week because at least the Vikings, you could see some of it coming, but with the Giants, they have looked horrible the first 2 games of the season, and the Browns, you thought defensively were going to at least be good enough to fend off Daniel Jones, and they were quite simply put not. Not a good look for the Browns. Really good look for the Giants. The Giants finally get in the win column. Both of these teams are 1-2. Browns might not be who we thought, especially if they can't get an offense going. Kind of a good win for the Giants, I guess. Anytime you get your first win is nice. Anytime you pick up a road win is nice. Not a whole lot to say. I don't think we're going to be talking too much about these teams as the season goes on, unless we're talking about who's getting a top 10 draft pick. So, but again, good win for the Giants. That's all I really have to say about it. Who did I pick? I did pick the Browns. I thought them being at home against an inferior opponent would get them in the win column and get them a winning record, but I was wrong, so I moved to 3-4 on the week. Last 1:00 game of the slate, the Colts and the Bears. Caleb Williams made some nice plays. It's still a little bit uneven from him, but I mean, 3rd career NFL start. I think too often in today's NFL, we rush quarterbacks too quickly and expect them to be an all-pro, Pro Bowl quarterback right away, and it's just not the case. Sometimes you need time to develop, and there's absolutely nothing wrong with that, because usually if you're picking top 5 and getting a quarterback number 1 overall, your team is rarely actually good enough to compete right away. And the Colts played 2 incredibly tight games to start the year. I do think they're pretty good from maybe competitive in their division. I don't know if I would say pretty good, but I don't think they're a top 5 or 6 team in their conference, but I think they're solid. I think they're average, slightly above average. I think they're going to knock some teams off, and they finally got their first win. They got it at home. I think this is 2 inconsistent quarterbacks. I was talking about Caleb Williams a little bit. I think Anthony Richardson is in that same boat. But got the first one. That's the one that sometimes is the hardest to get. We'll see if the Colts are a factor in that division. The Jaguars and Titans certainly don't seem like they will be, and they're only 1 game back of the Texans, although the Texans have beat them. Who did I pick? I did pick the Colts to win this game. I'm just not sold on the Bears yet. I trusted the Colts as a product a little bit more. That takes us back to 500 at 4-4. First game of the 4 o'clock slate. Seahawks Dolphins, and boy was this a hideous game. The Seahawks did win by 3 touchdowns, but it wasn't pretty. I mean, maybe that Dolphins defense is actually good, because that Dolphins defense for 2.5, 3 quarters looked really, really good, and are the only reason why this wasn't a massive blowout. But there's way too much talent on that Dolphins offense. They looked absolutely horrific. The defense, I think just an average quarterback, Miami wins this game, not even Tua. I mean, Seattle had the big first quarter, but Miami was driving. They put up a lot of yards. They were in scoring position a lot. They missed a field goal. They had 2 opportunities right around the 5, inside the 5, and they scored a whopping 3 points off of them. It was a horrible look for Miami. They got to Seattle territory. Sometimes they stalled out. Mike McDaniel, I don't know what he's doing from a play calling perspective. The run game was working. Seattle's had trouble with the run, and they would go away from it. Skylar Thompson, I think, is the big story. I think if you're going to have an injury-prone quarterback, you just can't not have a quality backup quarterback. And Skylar Thompson is clearly not. He looked scared to throw the ball. It was really hard to watch all game. Especially with a bad offensive line. But you know what? Instead of bashing the Dolphins, who, by the way, I think they need to start Tyler Huntley this week. At least he gives them something with the legs. But Seahawks are 3-0. We need to talk about that. I think they're a playoff team. They have a 2-game lead in the division already. Who would have seen that coming, that they'd be 3-0 and everybody else in that division would be 1-2? And quite frankly, the NFC West might be the best division in football. That might be my early hot take. But the Seahawks did what they had to do. It wasn't pretty at times. Metcalf with a big play early. The passing attack seems like it's there. They have a decent running attack. I mean, even without Kenneth Walker playing this weekend, that's going to be a good 1-2 punch with Charbonnet. I just think they have to shore up some things on defense. The secondary looks pretty good. If they get their run defense shored up, and if they can get Geno Smith to consistently play well, I think the Seahawks are pretty good. But again, I don't think the Seahawks won this game as much as the Dolphins not having a capable NFL quarterback is what lost this game. And who did I pick? I did pick Seattle because nobody should ever have trust in Skylar Thompson. That's not the guy to be the backup quarterback for Miami. I did get this game right, and I moved to 5-4 on the week. This one's kind of a surprise. This was my toilet bowl game of the week last week between the Raiders and the Panthers. Neither one of these teams is very good, although the Raiders do have a win over the Ravens on the season, which is shocking. But is Bryce Young really that bad, or are the Raiders worse? I don't really know. The Raiders looked good defensively the first 2 games, and then they came out against the Red Rocket at home, Andy Dalton himself, and just laid an egg. I mean, 36 points to a team. I don't think they scored 36 points in their first 2 games combined, and they were down big early. I mean, it's funny, this is a 14-point difference, but the Raiders were, I mean, that's kind of dressing the game up with some late scores. The Raiders looked absolutely horrible, and despite them, I thought they would look better. I thought they were going to be a tougher team and at least not get embarrassed. And the Panthers came out. Maybe Andy Dalton turns the season around. I don't know if I believe that, but it would certainly be interesting. Not a whole lot to say against 2 teams that I think are picking in the top 5 next year. It was a bad game between 2 bad teams, and Andy Dalton just seemed like he had it for a game. Who did I pick to win this? I did pick the Raiders to win. I think most people did. That doesn't mean it's okay. But the Panthers had just looked so bad. I thought Raiders were going to win just because of that. They did not. The Raiders deserve all the hate this week. I moved to 5-5. This was a pretty good game between 2 teams that desperately needed a rebound. And the Ravens, I think, a little bit more. And the Ravens went into Dallas and won. It was not pretty. The Ravens have a problem with closing out games. And if they don't get that fixed, they could be in some trouble as the rest of the season goes on. But they did win this game 28-25. Dallas tried to come back. They came up a little bit short. Dallas loses its second home game in a row, falls to 1-2 on the season. Baltimore gets their first win of the season to move to 1-2. At least Baltimore has had, well, I was going to say they've had a tough schedule, but one of their games was against the Raiders, so it could, I mean, the other two games, understandable, but and I do think these teams probably still end up in the playoffs. They both have some holes right now. I think the Ravens are just going to keep getting better. I think their defense is going to keep figuring out, and I think Lamar is still playing well. I do think they need to feed Derrick Henry a little bit more, and they started doing that this week and then stopped. I don't understand what they're doing from an offensive play calling perspective. And the Cowboys need to get their defense figured out. They're a little bit leaky in the pass game and the run game, I think. And Dak Prescott just needs some consistency. That offense is either really hot or really cold, and you can't consistently win games like that. Both of these teams will be interesting to watch going forward. Who did I pick? I did pick the Ravens. I was a little bit worried about that pick. I did pick them. We moved to 6-5. Next game in the afternoon slot was the Cardinals, who were coming off a great week 2 performance, and the Lions, who were coming off of a bad week 2 performance. And sure enough, the roles flipped. The Lions did get the rebound, winning 20-13 against a Cardinals team that we think is good. They have 2 close losses to 2 good teams, and they blew out a Rams team that, although are currently sitting at 1-2, look to be pretty good. The Lions got back on track. They're 2-1. They're second in their division, tied with the Packers. That division could be good outside of the Bears too. But I mean, the Lions playing 3 teams that seem pretty good. You come out 2-1. Eventually, you're going to have some easier games in this schedule, but it was a great job to go on the road and prevent falling to 1-2. Again, and I don't think the Cardinals are bad. I think they're pretty good, but I think the Lions have a little bit more experience. The Cardinals haven't quite been here yet. But Marvin Harrison Jr. and Kyler Murray certainly look like they're figuring out their connection, and that could be bad news for the rest of the league with how good Marvin Harrison Jr. has the potential to be. Who did I pick? I did pick the Lions, thankfully, and that moved me to 7-4 on the week. Or 7-5. I kind of lost track, I'm not going to lie. 4 games left. We'll figure it out at the end, everybody. We'll get there. Last game of the afternoon slate, the Rams and the 49ers. And the 49ers, I mean, they're now have a losing record at 1-2. The Rams joined them at 1-2. It's funny because I was right about one thing in this game, and that was that the Rams Stadium is just a 49ers home stadium south. A lot more 49ers fans than Rams fans. I understand why the NFL wants to be in LA, but they have got to do something to find fan bases there, because I don't think it's right to have that many 49ers fans in a rivalry game in LA. Not a good look. But it doesn't matter. LA came back. They were down big early. I believe it was 21-7. Came back to win the game as time expired at 27-24. And that kind of felt like it was needed. You fall to 0-3. I just feel like you don't really have a chance anymore at the playoffs, and that's all anybody wants is a chance. It's not great at 1-2, but 1-2 is definitely preferable to 0-3. And the 49ers had ideas of a 1 seed, and that's looking a lot more difficult starting 1-2 with some of the hot starts other teams have gotten off to. If the Vikings somehow keep this up, I mean, the Vikings already have the tiebreaker over them, and they're 2 games behind. So while it's early, and I don't want to overreact too much early, the NFL is different from every other sport with how short their seasons are, and a slow start can absolutely kill your opportunities at the playoffs, at the 1 seed, at the division, all kinds of things. And the 49ers, for a team that is looking to make the Super Bowl again, certainly off to a slow start. Albeit they do have quite a few injuries. But nobody's going to feel sorry for them because everybody has injuries. And again, it was a great job by the Rams, a team that I think are good. I feel bad for how tough their schedule has been to start the year. Not really fair from the schedule makers. But again, I just said it. Nobody cares if it's fair. You are responsible for showing up and winning, doing everything you can do to do that. I did pick the 49ers to win. I believe I said the 49ers were going to deliver a death blow to the Rams season. And I was wrong. That moves us back down to only 1 game above 500. Moving on to Sunday Night Football, pretty interesting one. The Falcons and the Chiefs. Chiefs win another one by one possession. They're 3-0, keeping pace with the Bills, the other 3-0 team in the AFC. Unfortunately, well, I don't think the Chiefs really care as long as they win, but unfortunately for the rest of the NFL community, are the Chiefs ever going to win a game without controversy? It's been 3 weeks, and all 3 weeks there's been a massive bout of controversy over favorable calls from the Chiefs. And I think when you're this good, that's going to happen regardless of whether it's true or not. But there might be some merit to this idea that the Chiefs get all the calls. And I don't think they care, and I don't think they should care. They're out there to win football games, and whatever happens, happens. The Falcons, it was a valiant effort. I still think the Falcons win their division despite them being behind early. I think they're good. I think they've played definitely two good teams, probably three good teams early, and they've been close and in the game every single time. They've only won one, but again, Kirk Cousins, he's going to keep coming along, and I think the team's going to keep coalescing because there's a lot of new pieces. It was a good fight by the Falcons. Again, some controversy. Definitely going to keep an eye on the Chiefs moving forward from a controversy standpoint. Who did I pick? I did pick the Chiefs. I thought it was too early in the season for the Falcons to compete with them. Run this back in week 17. The Falcons might have the ability to compete with the Chiefs. Anyway, moving on to the two Monday Night Football games. Our first Monday Night Football doubleheader. And the first game was ugly, absolute bloodbath. 47-10 Buffalo in Buffalo. Jacksonville has lost, 8 or 9 games? When do we start talking about Trevor Lawrence being a bust? Because Doug Peterson is a good coach. They were 8-3 last year, and since they were 8-3 and winning their division, it has been a train wreck. Trevor Lawrence has not looked good in most of those games, and I think it's so interesting how differently we cover Trevor Lawrence from other guys. Not too many people are calling him a bust. Not too many people are saying it was a bad contract. And you see that a lot with guys like Tua and Burrow. And quite frankly, I think Tua and Burrow are more established and have had much better career so far than Lawrence had and has had. But not a great game from Lawrence or anybody on Jacksonville. Buffalo looking like the best team in the NFL as it currently sits. They're blowing everybody out. I don't really think it matters too much that the combined record of the teams they beat are 2-7. They're still playing really well. And Buffalo looks awfully scary right now. Is this the year they get their first Super Bowl? I don't know. The Chiefs own the Bills in the way the Bills own the Dolphins. So I don't know if the Bills are ever going to be able to get by the Chiefs. But really, really good performance from them, winning 47-10. And they are definitely at the top of the list of contenders. Maybe it's Allen's MVP year. Who did I pick to win? I did pick the Bills to win. And we are moving on to our last game. Another surprise. I think we can stick a fork in the Bengals. 38-33. The Commanders scored 38 points. I don't think anybody saw that one coming. If you're the Bengals, inexcusable. Daniels had the best game in his career so far. It's only been 3 games. More touchdowns than incompletions. Incredibly impressive. I just think this is unexcusable from the Bengals. You can't let them beat you in this way. The Bengals have now lost to 2 teams that are supposed to not be very good. Maybe the Commanders are good. They're 2-1. We'll see as the season progresses. The Bengals might be done 0-3. They only showed up for the Chiefs game. It seems. I don't know if 0-3 is recoverable unless they go on a super, super long win streak. Even then, it might not be enough. They still have 2 games against the Ravens, 2 games against the Steelers. There's a lot of good teams they have to play, and it's hard to find definite wins in their schedule to get them to the playoffs. So they're going to have to get really hot really fast, I think. And the Commanders, maybe they are serious playoff contenders. I don't know. I still want to see him play some better teams, and we'll see. But Daniel certainly looks like he could be the guy for the Commanders. They've been asking for a quarterback for a while, and he could be the guy. Definitely a great performance out of him. I did have the Bengals winning this one, as you can see. They desperately need a rebound. They desperately just need to get in the win column. But yeah, Bengals lost another one. They're 0-3. Commanders moved to 2-1. All right, so here you go. You can see my weekly overall records. I started 12-4 in week 1, went 8-8 last week. We rebounded a little bit this week to 9-7. There's a lot of upsets the last 2 weeks. I'm hoping most of my weeks start to look like that 12-4 week and not like the last 2 weeks. My overall record is still 29-19. We're still 10 games over 500 the 3 weeks in. There's still a lot of questions we have to answer 3 weeks in. Things like a lot of contenders are off to slow starts. Not all of them are going to be able to recover. Who recovers? We talked a little bit about that going through these games. And who is real? Are the Vikings real? Are the Steelers real? Teams we weren't necessarily expecting, or teams outperforming expectations? Who is still real? I don't have the answer to that. The only way we're going to have an answer to that is by watching the rest of the season. Next week will be week 4, so maybe we'll add some things in here about divisional standings. I think it's too early to kind of look at divisional standings because teams aren't too spread out yet in most of the situations. But yeah, I mean, those are a couple of questions, right? Injuries, how they're going to play out. Parity in the league, is it up or down? Is this just how it is now? What contenders rebound and what teams are real that are playing well. So that's some things we need to keep in mind as we continue to go through the schedule, as we continue to go through the year, and we get into next week. Next week is going to be 1/4 of the football season, regular season over. I guess technically a little bit under because 4 out of 17 is not quite 1/4, but it's right there. It's already moving by so fast for me. I don't know about you guys. But here you go. Here's my summary of my weekly record so far. And with this, we are going to move into week 4. We're going to predict week 4 here. Here you go. Here are my symbols. If you've been watching the first 3 episodes, you know what the symbols are. Just here's a refresher. There's only 4 logos, and one of them is quite self-explanatory. Go ahead and look at them. You probably remember from the last couple weeks. I don't feel a need to keep reminding you. We can both read, and I encourage you to keep coming back week to week so you know what these mean anyway. Here we go. Thursday night football. The Cowboys and the Giants in Dallas. Dallas needs the rebound. They are 0-2 at home this year. They need to get their first home victory. I think they do here in this divisional rivalry game. Not a whole lot to say. I still don't think the Giants are good despite last week. I think the Cowboys are good, and they want to be in the playoffs. And it's a Thursday night game. Cowboys are the home team. Not that has mattered too much, but I think the Cowboys pick this one up. I think they pick it up by double digits pretty easily. I think the Cowboys find a little bit of their rhythm, and I think the defense probably gives a little bit of yardage up to the Giants, but I think the defense figures it out this week. Now, second game, we're going to start here in the 1:00 slate. Jets and Broncos. I'm going to pick the Jets simply because I think the offense continues to figure it out, and that defense I think is going to make it hard on Bo Nix. Good performance last week against the average, slightly above average defense in the Buccaneers. But the Jets defense is a different monster, and I don't think rookie quarterbacks are going to like playing the Jets defense this year. I think the Jets are going to have a lot of confusion. They're going to get a lot of pressure. They're going to make it really hard. And I think Bo Nix probably takes a step back and doesn't have nearly as good of a week this week as he did last week. And I think the Jets win this one kind of easily. Again, double digits. I don't think the Broncos will score a whole lot. I don't think the Jets are going to score 35 points, but I think the Jets score enough here to be comfortable in the fourth quarter. Here we go. Packers and Vikings. This is one of my top 5 games of the week. A 2-1 versus a 3-0. Both teams rocking backup quarterbacks. I definitely think the Packers win if they have Jordan Love in this game. If they have Malik Willis, I lean towards the Vikings, but I think the Packers still have a chance. Like I said, I'm still waiting for the Cinderella story to run out for the Vikings. If they win this week at Lambeau, division rivalry game with a lot on the line, maybe I will stop waiting for that to happen. Probably won't, but maybe. Again, I think if Jordan Love is playing, I think the Packers definitely win this game. Him not playing makes it a little bit more worrisome for me. But Vikings have looked good, and really it's going to come down to can that Brian Flores defense get stops? Because I think the Packers defense is going to get enough. Like the Vikings offense has scored a lot of points, but I don't know if they're like considered a great offensive team yet. And I think the Packers can get enough stops. Although giving up 14 to Tennessee isn't a great look. I know 14's only 2 touchdowns, but Tennessee's just that bad. But yeah, I'm going to pick Green Bay. I'm not even going to caveat it. I think Green Bay hands Minnesota their first loss. in this division rivalry game, and I think these two teams both go to 3-1 on top of the division. Another divisional rivalry game between two teams that with winning records early on, or my bad, I apologize. Falcons do not have a winning record. They are 1-2, but I think that they are playing well and showing they could be a playoff team. Both of these teams are looking to rebound in the Saints and the Falcons. Both lost close games to teams that made the playoffs last year, one of which was playing the Super Bowl champion. I think this is going to be a top 5 game of the week. I do think this game ends up in the teens or low 20s, kind of like all the games the Falcons have played this year and the game the Saints played last week. I still think it's going to be a good game. I think both offenses have a couple of good drives. I think the defenses are going to tell the story. I think both of these teams' defenses are going to be good enough to slow down the other team's offense. I think the Falcons squeak by. I refuse to drink the Saints Kool-Aid because it keeps hurting me every time I drink it the last couple of years. I drank it last week after not believing in it the first 2 weeks, and look what happened. So I'm going to try and learn my lesson and pick the Falcons here. And I think the Falcons pick up an important victory over the Saints to move to 2-2, and they will be tied in the division. Again, I think it's a really good game. I think it's close the entire time. I think it's going to be a good rivalry game, but I think the Falcons win by 1 possession in the end. Game number 3. Again, I feel like this happened last week. It's happening again this week where I have 3 top 5 game of the weeks in a row. I guess this isn't a game of the week, but a top 5 game of the week. And we have the Buccaneers and the Eagles, 2-1 teams. 2 teams that I think have playoff aspirations. They both made it last year. Buccaneers are looking to rebound after, quite frankly, an inexcusable loss. If you're the Buccaneers, you should be coming into this game 3-0. And the Eagles are trying to maintain/enlarge in their lead over the Commanders for the division lead. Eagles want to take advantage of the Cowboys having a difficult schedule and sputtering, kind of spinning the tires to start the year. I think this is another close game, but I think Philadelphia is going to be able to play a good enough defense and disturb Baker Mayfield enough. Even though the Buccaneers are at home, I think the Eagles have more talent. I am starting to get a little bit worried about Jalen Hurts, but I think the Eagles in the end do enough to win this game. Again, I think it's another good close game. I don't think the Buccaneers get the rebound they're looking for, though. Moving on, we have the Panthers and the Bengals, and I have that the Bengals need a rebound. I'm about to take that off because, man, the Bengals are just looking rough. 0-3 at this point. You got to worry about if this team is ever going to have it together. They had a great Super Bowl run in 2021. The only non-Tom Brady-led team to knock the Chiefs off in the AFC was Joe Burrow and the Bengals, and since that time, they have not looked to be nearly as good. They haven't looked to be that team. The Panthers had a great week last week for them. I don't think it's going to be very easily replicated. This was almost my toilet bowl game of the week, but I think the Bengals are going to be flashy enough offensively to make this game look good. And I think the Bengals finally get in the win column. I don't feel great about it. Maybe Andy Dalton at home with the Panthers embarrasses his former franchise. That would be a heck of a storyline. And then he gets the Panthers to 2-2. Quite interesting storyline built into this game, I think. But I think the Bengals are starting to get a little bit pissed off, if you will, and I think the Bengals are going to prove it with an easy win over the Panthers. Again, I don't think the Panthers replicate last week. I think the Bengals finally get their win and move to 1-3 and hope that other people start losing in front of them. Moving on, we have the Texans and Jaguars. Texans looking to rebound over the team that was supposed to be their biggest competition for the division this year in the Jaguars. I think the Texans get the rebound at home. Not a whole lot to say. The Jaguars have looked bad. Houston, I think, has a good defense, and I think they're going to make things hard on Trevor Lawrence and the Jaguars. I think their offense rebounds a little bit. Jacksonville's pass defense doesn't look good. Miami exploited it, although that was with a healthy Tua. Josh Allen kind of exploited it. I think that CJ Stroud has been pretty darn good. Last week was a little bit of a hiccup. I think he rebounds, has a big week this week. And I think the Texans kind of roll in this one. Maybe the Jaguars keep it a little bit close, but definitely the Texans win and move to 3-1. Colts Steelers. In Steelers fashion, this game is probably a rock fight. I don't think the Steelers are going to win too many shootouts. They're not built to do it, but they do have a really good defense that I think can keep just about any team in the NFL under 20 points. The Colts have a pretty good defense, and it's not like either one of these teams' offenses are good. This could be a single digit game, maybe 13-10. I think Anthony Richardson's definitely going to have to use his legs to stay away from TJ Watt in this one. Like I said, rock fight. It has a rock fight written all over it. I do not see a lot of scoring in this one. I think it's going to be Big Ten football. And I think the Steelers are going to probably win this one. I think the Steelers defense is a little bit better than the Colts defense, and I think that's going to ultimately what wins them the game. Like I said, something like 9-6, 13-10. I just don't see the Colts offense led by Anthony Richardson being able to score enough and move the ball against the Steelers defense. Chicago and LA, the Rams and the Bears. Again, first season for Caleb Williams. I know a lot of people put expectations on them. I don't think they were fair. I think this is a 4-5 win team. I think the Rams continue the streak and they move to 2-2, which for somehow in the NFC West might be good enough for second, depending on what everybody else does this week. I think the Rams, I don't know, think they win this one easily. The Bears defense has been playing pretty well. But I do think the Rams win this one by a possession or two. I think the Bears look decent. Maybe even Caleb Williams throws for a touchdown or two because the Rams defense has been iffy at times this year, but they're not going to be able to do enough to beat Matthew Stafford and the Rams, even with some of the injuries. And for those reasons, I'm picking the Rams to beat the Bears here. Cardinals looking to rebound against the Commanders team that is 2-1 to everybody's surprise. Cardinals are at home, 1-2, and just like I said about the Rams, they win this week in a very winnable game against a rookie quarterback. They moved to 2-2, and they're right there. Like I said, I think the Seahawks are going to come back to everybody else a little bit. Plus, all of these teams still get to play Seattle twice, and I think Seattle picks up 2 or 3 losses, maybe even 4 losses in those games. So it's definitely too early to call that division over and say Seattle's running away with it. And I do think Arizona gets the win. I think that their defense is going to slow the Commanders down enough. But I do think the Commanders find some points, but that defense is not going to be good enough. I don't think there's any way that they're going to stop a whole game of Kyler Murray, Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride, and company. And I think the Cardinals probably score 30-40 in this one. And I think this could potentially be a blowout unless Daniels has an absolutely tremendous game again. 49ers, another NFC West team looking to rebound, another NFC West team that lost last week and has high aspirations, playing the Patriots at home. Last week we saw the Patriots play about how we thought the Patriots would be, or at least how we thought the Patriots would play most of the season. I think the Patriots are maybe come back down to earth a little bit. I think the book is out on them. The league knows what they have to do to stop them. I think the 49ers are going to be very good in the run defense, and I don't think they're threatened by New England throwing the ball. I think the 49ers may be slow to start offensively, but I think the 49ers are going to use this as a get-right game at home, shake off the last 2 losses, the 2 losses in a row, and I think that they're going to blow New England out in this one. I think they win easily, and they get back to 500. Sorry. We went one game too far there. Raiders versus Browns. This is another toilet bowl candidate of the week. Not a very enticing game, in my opinion. The Raiders looked horrible last week. The Browns looked better, but not by much. It was not a hard bar to meet. This could be a rock fight. Neither one of these offenses is very inspiring. Raiders are a little bit more so, but the Browns probably have a better defense. I have no idea what to think about this game. I lean to the Browns just because they've been the better team recently and they've showed a little bit more this season. Although I would not be shocked if the Raiders are mad about last week and they come home and win a game that is winnable. I think the Browns are favored. I think they should be slightly favored, so for those reasons, I am going to pick the Browns to win, but I would not be shocked at all by a Raiders win. Moving on to the Chargers and Chiefs, 2-1 versus 3-0. The winner of this game will have sole possession of first place in the AFC West. But yet again, do the Chargers really have a home field advantage? Plus, Mahomes kind of owns the Chargers. Chargers do have a new head coach in Harbaugh. He's going to want to run the ball and play defense. And maybe that approach works against Kansas City, but Kansas City still has a good defense. And even without Travis Kelce playing well, not getting a lot of numbers, their offense is still humming along decently well. I think it's going to be humming along well enough to beat the Chargers. Again, there's nothing wrong with the Chargers being 2-1, 2-2. I think this year they're fine. I think Harbaugh's going to take this year, and then next year he's really going to be looking to put the foot to the pedal, I guess, right? I was saying the right thing. But I think the Chiefs win this one, 1-2 possessions. They are on the road, but again, I don't know how much that matters with the Chargers. I think that's about it. I had a couple extra notes here, but I don't think they're really relevant. I just think it's, can the Chiefs finally get a win without any controversy, and can they wake Travis Kelce up? Because come playoff time, that is going to be a big story. And I don't think the Chargers are quite ready to compete with the Chiefs. So I'm going to have the Chiefs moving to 4-0 there. Moving on to Sunday Night Football. This is another top 5 game of the week between two teams. The Bills, who have looked really good this year and were supposed to be good, they actually might be playing better than some people thought with some of their losses. And the Ravens, who I thought were the best team in the conference coming in, they're off to a slow 1-2 start with some holes. And they are playing at home in primetime. I think this one's going to be a really good game. I think we might see a little bit of a track meet. I think Lamar's going to be able to move the ball against Buffalo better. I mean, look at what Kyler Murray did. Kyler Murray used his legs. He was able to find gaps in Buffalo's defense, and Lamar Jackson is better than Kyler Murray is. I do think the Ravens might have trouble stopping the Bills, but what team hasn't had trouble stopping the Bills this year? Their offense has been phenomenal. I'm going to pick the Bills to win this one. This could be the game where the Ravens finally put it all together, and if they put it all together, they will beat the Bills at home. But just based off how they've looked the first 3 weeks, these are two teams I still think end up in the playoffs. I just can't go against the Bills because the Bills have proven it every single week where the Ravens have not. And if the Ravens have to hold on to a lead, I don't see how they're going to be able to do that with how they've looked to start the season. I'm going to go with the Bills moving to 4-0 and putting the Ravens in a 1-3 really bad spot. Additionally, I think this is going to be such a good game. It's going to be my game of the week this week. If you can be anywhere, be at your TV, 8 o'clock Sunday night to watch this game. Moving on, we have another Monday night doubleheader. Dolphins and Titans. This game probably looked a little bit better if Tua was playing. At least you would see one team that's perceived to be good. This does give me some flashbacks to when the Titans kind of ruined the Dolphin season last year. That game was Monday Night Football in Miami, and it's Monday Night Football in Miami again. And the Titans, although it's a little bit earlier, might have a chance to ruin Miami's season in Miami on Monday Night Football for the second year in a row. You got to think, if Miami loses this one with their backup quarterback, they fall to 1-3. Things could get very tense and fall apart very quickly. Tennessee's really bad, and even with a backup, Miami should win. Hopefully Miami, if you're a Miami fan, hopefully Miami. If you're literally anybody else, you're hoping Skylar Thompson's out there. I just don't think Skylar Thompson is good. I think Huntley gives them a better chance to win. And it's not that I think Huntley is a phenomenal quarterback, but I think Huntley has showed more promise as a starter than Thompson has. I think Huntley will at least be able to continue to extend plays with his legs and continue to get the ball out. Look, Miami wins this. They move to 2-2. Their next game is against the Patriots, who I think that's a game they can win with the backup quarterback. And their season isn't lost. Like they're just trying to stay in it until Tua comes back and then make the run. The Titans might be the worst team in the NFL. If Will Levis keeps playing the way he has, and which is likely, Miami's defense is pretty good, but if Will Levis keeps on playing the way he has, it very well could put the Titans in a tough spot. They could be picking with premium draft position, and they might just give up on Levis and pick a new quarterback. I think that's likely. I don't think the Titans are good. The Dolphins' offenses look dreadful without Tua. And because of that, this is my toilet bowl game of the week. I do think the Dolphins win an ugly one. This one might be like a 12-10 game. Miami might still have trouble because Tennessee's defense is still physical, and Miami's offense is not always. Again, ugly game. I want to say Miami squeaks it out. I kind of want to say if Skylar Thompson plays, I'm switching to Tennessee. I am. I hope you guys are okay with that. But for now, I'll say Miami pulls it out. This is the last game of the week. It is another top 5 game, the second Monday Night Football game. Detroit and Seattle in Detroit. 2 teams that are playoff contenders, 2 teams that have a chance at winning their division, 2 teams that have pretty high aspirations. Seattle 3-0, Detroit 2-1. I think I trust Detroit more. They are at home. Detroit has experience. Seattle has a first-year head coach, and while they are 3-0, I haven't been overly impressed with any of their wins. They've beaten New England in overtime, Miami at home, and I can't remember who they played week 1. Denver, that's right. They played an ugly game against Denver. So while Seattle is 3-0, it's not the prettiest 3-0. Sometimes that doesn't matter. Maybe they show up on Monday night and prove to everybody they can beat good teams. But I don't think that happens. I think Detroit has played 3 good teams to start the season. They almost made the Super Bowl last year. I think they're more battle tested, and I think all that's going to show through. I think Detroit's going to be able to run the ball really, really well against Seattle because they're very physical at the point of contact. I think Detroit wins this one. I don't know if I want to say easily, but semi-easily Detroit wins this one. So here you go. Here is a summary of all of the games, the times they're played, and who I think is going to win for week 4. Like I said, hopefully we can rebound, even if it's to like maybe not 12-4, but to 11-5 would be cool. Even a 10-6, keep building my record over 500. Don't use my picks to gamble. I just want to say that I don't want anybody losing money because I'm a bonehead talking about a sport that I think I'm knowledgeable about. So please don't do that to yourself. I wouldn't recommend myself doing it. But here you go. Like I said, summaries on just simply who I think is going to win. We'll see what happens. I'm 29-19 on the season. Hopefully we keep getting better. Hopefully you guys keep enjoying the series. Once again, thank you for showing up. I hope everybody's able to come back next week. As always, like, comment, subscribe, give suggestions. If there's a sport you want to see, if there's a league you want to see covered, if there's a series that you want to see, drop it in the comments. We'll see what we can do. There's my X handle, my Twitter handle, however you want to say it, right there, BenOn_sports. Don't be afraid to come out and follow. We're a little bit sporadic over there. Sometimes we're live tweeting games. Sometimes we're talking about who knows what, and sometimes we'll be answering questions. So don't be afraid to come out there and hang out. As always, I'm going to say it again because it's so important. It helps creators out so much. Like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you. I hope to see you all next week. I hope you enjoyed. Have a good week and do what I do. Don't leave the couch on NFL Sundays. You guys have a good one.